Krishna Prabhu, I won't be able to read today. Yeah, just got service going on.
Okay, Prabhu, no problem. Let's see if others come at all. Yeah. Hare Krishna, everybody. And was pronounced so.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Let's see if, yeah, we can start. If somebody joins, they can join later. So I would just like quickly to remind ourselves what we did, to remind myself also. Baggage boarding, yeah. Okay. So here we did, we are in the chapter, what is the chapter title? Lal Maharaj refuses to accept material, no, this is the Prahlad, the best among his all devotees. So it's the 10th chapter of the 7th canto. Nrsimhadev killed Hiranyakashipu, and he's ready to offer benedictions to Prahlad Maharaj, but Prahlad is refusing any material benedictions, and he's asking for what? He's asking for deliverance of his father, which is something very compassionate to do. The same father who tried to kill him. And then there are long prayers there of Prahlad, how the bhakti is not a trade, is not a business, and he is not a merchant. It's his duty to serve the Lord. And then he prays for Nikashipu's deliverance. This is the benediction that he wants. And then Lord Nrsimhadev, he glorifies his devotees, headed by Prahlad Maharaj. And we heard how the whole dynasties of devotees, 21 generations, are purified by being born in a devotee family. So pure devotee is so potent that just by being born in his line, one can be delivered. And then he describes the qualities of pure devotees like Prahlad: impartial, non-envious. Then we have described that he did perform funeral rites, Shraddha ceremony for Hiranyakashipu. And then he asked Prahlad to to rule the kingdom of his father for a very long time. And then after that we heard the Lord Brahma's prayers to Lord Nrsimhadev, glorifying the Lord and glorifying the Prahlad as well. So we are just here 34, where the new section start, which is concluding section of this Nrsimhadev's Lila, where Narada Muni concludes the narration. 34. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Gyanatimrandasya Gananjana Shalakaya, Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So I'll start reading. Pratinhandhya Tato Deva Prayujya Paramashisha Swadhamani Yayuraja Brahmadhya Pratipujita. O King Yudhishthir, Narada Muni speaking, after all the demigods headed by Lord Brahma were properly worshipped by Prahlad Maharaj, they offered Prahlad their utmost benedictions and then returned to their respective abodes. So yeah, they offered benedictions to Prahlad. Although Prahlad is also fit to offer benedictions and blessings to them, but because he was a small child, so it was befitting for demigods to offer him benedictions. 35. Evam cha parshado Vishnu putratvam prapitaudhite ridistitena harina vaira bhavena thau hattau. Thus, the two associates of Lord Vishnu, who had become Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, the sons of Diti, were both killed. By illusion, they had thought that the Supreme Lord, who is situated in everyone's heart, was their enemy. So now Narada Muni is wrapping up the whole discussion that started some chapters ago. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, the discourse concerning Lord Nrsimhadev and Prahlad Maharaj began when Maharaj Yudhishthir asked Narada how Shishupala had merged into the body of Krishna. Shishupala and Dantavakra were the same Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Here Narada Muni is relating how in 3 different births the associates of Lord Vishnu were killed by Lord Vishnu himself. First they were the demons Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. This was the first birth. Second birth was Ravana and Kumbhakarna, and third Shishupal and Dantavakra. So Vishnu Thakur says the question had been asked how it was possible for Shishupal and Dantavakra to attain Sayujya. Thus the story of their previous birth was told. Now the story is concluded. So externally it appears that they attained Sayujya because everybody in registered sacrifice, they could see the spark of light coming from the body of Shishupal when his head was cut off by Sudarshan Chakra and entering the transcendental body of Sri Krishna. So it was a momentary Sayujya. It looked like Sayujya, but actually after merging, the gatekeeper Jai from Vaikuntha, he was reinstated in his original position. So it's not that he remained merged in the Brahma Jyoti, in the body of the Lord. So externally look like Sayujya, but actually he attains Salokya and Sarupya, the similar form to the form of the Lord, and same body living the same planet, which is Vishnu Loka, the entrance of Vishnu Loka. I will read one more. पुनश्च विप्रशापेन रक्षसौ तौ बभूवतु कुम्भकर्ण दशग्रीवौ हतौ तौ Ramavikramai. Being cursed by the Brahmanas, the same two associates took birth again as Kumbhakarna, the ten-headed Ravana. These two Rakshasas were killed by the Lord Ramachandra's extraordinary power. Okay. Gunnar Prabhu, would you like to read?
Yes, Prabhu. Sayanau yuddhi nirbinna hridayau Rama sayakai tachittau jagatu deham yata praktana janmani. Translation. Pierced by the arrows of Lord Ramachandra, both Kumbhakarna and Ravana lay on the ground and left their bodies, fully absorbed in thought of the Lord, just as they had in their previous birth as Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu.
Okay, one more.
ताविहता पुनर्जातौ शिशुपाल करुषजौ हरौ वीरानुबन्धेन पश्यतस्ते samiyatu. Translation. They both took birth again in human society as Sisupala and Dandavakara and continued in the same enmity toward the Lord. It is they who merged into the body of the Lord in your presence. Purport. Vairanu acting like the Lord's enemy is also beneficial for the living entity. Kamat, Dveshat, Bhayat, Snehat, whether in lusty desire, anger, fear, or envy of the Lord, somehow or other, as recommended by Srila Rupa Goswami, Tasmat Kenapi Upayena, Srimad Bhagavatam 7.1.32. One should become attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and ultimately achieve the goal of returning home back to Godhead. What then is to be said of one who is related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a servant, friend, father, mother, or conjugal lover?
You want to give us some point from here?
Yeah, though it is mentioned here, whether even if you are having enmity towards Lord, still you can get benefit. But as far as we are concerned, I think we cannot practice that kind of things.
Yeah, that process is not recommended. Because bhakti has to be favorable. Anukulihena Krishna Anushilana should, but enmity as the process is not really favorable towards the Lord. But because the emotions involved, like this dvesha and bhaya, the hatred and fear that the demons have, they're so strong and they're directed towards the Lord, and they're enough to absorb the mind in the Lord. And this is actually the crucial point, absorption of the mind. Then whether you come to that absorption through negative emotions or through positive favorable emotions, at the end doesn't matter, because the mind becomes absorbed in the Lord, and just through this absorption one gets purified. And in the end, both demons and devotees, they attain the Lord. But it's not recommended process, and it's you cannot practice as a process for Hiranyakashipu or Hiranyaksha. It was natural. They just naturally felt that hatred, that very strong hatred, that it was enough for them to absorb their mind in the Lord. But we can learn a lesson that to different sort of emotions we can absorb the mind and the Lord. Emotions that are favorable, that are positive. Well, here we have karma, which is sort of lust, but actually it refers to transcendental lust, not, you know, the ordinary lust. It's a conjugal attraction that gopis had, which is one of the strongest emotions, but because it was directed towards Krishna, it was transcendental. It's described that Kubja, she had something that was almost like material lust, but still, she also got purified. And the gopis' attraction towards him, although it's described as karma, it's not. It was not lust. It was pure love, sneha, affection that family members of Krishna have in Dwaraka, Vrindavan. So all this, see here, all emotions, different variety of emotions involved, and they all lead to this absorption of the mind in Krishna. And that sort of absorption is being emulated in Raga Nuga Sadhana Bhakti, the bhakti that follows in the footsteps of the Ragatmika devotees who have natural attraction, natural raga towards the Krishna. So on path of Raga Nuga Sadhana Bhakti, one tries to invoke these emotions and to do the perform devotional service not only because the rules and regulations order, but because one has natural inclination to do it. One naturally likes to chant Krishna's holy name, and it's not that he's just trying to complete a stipulated number of rounds or mechanically does the puja. No, he has natural attraction for different limbs of bhakti. But until one comes to that stage that this natural attraction in the heart is awakened, he has to follow Vaidhi Bhakti. Means, you mechanically do because, the rule says that, and you're ordered by the Shastra and the Guru to follow these rules. But eventually, from this mechanical performance, one is supposed to come to spontaneous attraction, spontaneous execution of devotional service. And then this is where these emotions come into play, which help uh, the mind to become absorbed in the Lord. Through just following mechanically, the mind doesn't become so quickly and so easily absorbed, like it becomes absorbed through very strong emotions. So somehow we need to develop some emotions that are in connection with the Lord. And then it will be much, much more easier for us to perform devotional service. All right. Shantirupa Mataji, would you like to read?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Ena purvakritam yatad rajana Krishna vairina jahuste ante tad atmana kita peshashkrito yatha. Translation. Not only Shishupal and Dantavakra, but also many other kings who acted as enemies of Krishna attained salvation at the time of death. Because they thought of the Lord, they received spiritual bodies and forms the same as his, just as worms captured by a black drone obtain the same type of body as the drone. Purport. The mystery of yogic meditation is explained here. Real yogis always meditate on the form of Vishnu within their hearts. Consequently, at the time of death, they give up their bodies while thinking of the form of Vishnu and thus attain Vishnu Loka, Vaikuntha Loka, where they receive bodily features the same as those of the Lord. From the sixth canto, we have already learned that when the Vishnu Dutas came from Vaikuntha to deliver Jamil, they looked exactly like Vishnu, with 4 hands and the same features as Vishnu. Therefore, we may conclude that if one practices thinking of Vishnu and is fully absorbed in thinking of him at the time of death, one returns home back to Godhead. Even enemies of Krishna who thought of Krishna in fear, bhaya, such as King Kamsa, receive bodies in a spiritual identity similar to that of the Lord. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Ena means offense, such as criticizing Krishna. They, by thinking of the Lord and absorbing their minds in the Lord, destroyed the sins previously committed. An example of absorption is given. A worm by meditation on a wasp becomes a wasp.
Gonna give us something from this shloka that you remember? You're muted. Shanti Rupa Mataji.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
No problem.
So, Shishupal and Dantavakra, and also many other kings who thought of Krishna as enemies, attained salvation at the time of death. Because they thought of the Lord, they received spiritual bodies and forms the same as his. And the example is that worms captured by a black drone obtain the same type of body as the drone. So this is the mystery of the yogic meditation. Real yogis, Prabhupada is saying, meditate on the form of Vishnu, and at the time of death, they give up their bodies while thinking of the form of Vishnu and attain Vishnu Loka or Vaikuntha Loka, where they receive the same bodily features as that of the Lord. So this is the main thing, and that thinking of Krishna at the time of death is the benefit of thinking of Krishna at the time of death is that we can go back to Godhead. That is the main point, I think.
Yeah, the absorption of the mind in the Lord, this is the whole our practices are supposed to lead us to that point, that the mind becomes 24 hours absorbed in the remembrance of Krishna. And then if we leave the body in that state of mind, in the state of mind which is absorbing Krishna, then we go to Krishna. There is no doubt of that. But one can ask, well, I'll think whatever I want now, but when the death comes, at that moment, I'll focus I'll remember Krishna, I will take a photo of Krishna, I'll fix my gaze, and I will remember it. But it doesn't work like this. At the time of death, if your mind has not been trained to think of Krishna, if you are not already absorbed during the lifetime, how are you going to be absorbed during the death? It's impossible. It's very difficult. Untrained mind cannot think of Krishna. So whole purpose of our practice is to train the mind to always remember Krishna and never forget him. This is the one rule that supersedes all other rules. All other rules are meant to facilitate this main rule. Always think of Krishna and never forget him. If we follow so many other rules, but we miss this one rule and we forget Krishna, it's all useless. It's maybe some Agyata security, but it doesn't lead us, to Krishna. So yeah, the demons, kings, different kings, they somehow absorb their mind in the Lord, and that's why they were delivered. But it's not that all kings, there is a King Vena who criticized the Lord, but his mind was not absorbing him, and he went to hell. He committed offenses, but he was not purified because he didn't get absorbed in Krishna. So his criticizing led him, to hellish life. So it's a very risky part to criticize the Lord. You can do that only if you're sure that you'll become absorbed in Krishna, but if not, you go to hell. So it's not advisable to even try that negative part of hatred. Okay, I'll read more. Shalish Prabhu said he cannot read. So 7:40 Yatha Yatha Bhagavato Bhaktya Paramhayabhida Nripash Chaidhyadhaya Satmyam Haristachintaya Yayo. By devotional service, pure devotees who incessantly think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead receive bodies similar to his. This is known as Sarupya Mukte. Although Shishupal, Dandavakra, and other kings thought of Krishna as an enemy, they also achieved the same result. Purport in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in connection with the Lord Chaitanya's instructions to Sanatana Goswami, it is explained that a devotee should externally execute his routine devotional service in a regular way, but should always inwardly think of the particular mellow in which he is attracted to the service of the Lord. This constant thought of the Lord makes the devotee eligible to return home back to Godhead. Stated in Bhagavad Gita, Tyaktva deham punar janma naiti ma eti. After giving up his body, a devotee does not again receive a material body, but goes back to Godhead and receives a spiritual body, resembling those of the Lord's eternal associates whose activities he followed. However, the devotee likes to serve the Lord. He may constantly think of the Lord's associates, the cowherd boys, the gopis, the Lord's father and mother, his servants and trees, land, animals, plants, and water in the Lord's abode. Because of constantly thinking of these features, one acquires a transcendental position. Kings like Shishupal, Dantavakra, Kamsa, Pundra, Kanarakasura, and Shalva were all similarly delivered. This is confirmed by Madhvacharya. Paundrake Narake Chaiva, Shalve Kamse Charukmini, Avishthas tu Harir Bhaktas, Tad Bhaktya Harim Apire. Paundraka Narakasura, Shalva, and Kamsa were all inimical toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but because all these kings constantly thought of him, they achieved the same liberation, Sarupya Mukti. The Jnana Bhakta, the devotee who follows the path of Jnana, also attains the same destination. If even the enemies of the Lord achieve salvation by constantly thinking about the Lord, what is to be said of pure devotees who always engage in the Lord's service and who think of nothing but the Lord in every activity? Vishnu Chakri Thakur. Just as by bhakti, devotees with a mixture of jnana, by thinking of non-difference, vidha, attain similar bodies as the Lord. So Shishupal and others, by thinking of the Lord, attained the Lord. What type of bhakti was it? It was the highest, paramhaya, higher than jnana and vairagya. And later it will also be said that these enemies finally attained the Lord. Nibrita marun manoksha Didayo ayujo hridiyan Mune upasati tad arayo piyayu smaranat Striya uragendra bhoga bhuja dandave shakto dhiyo Vayam apite samadrisho angris roja sudaha. Simply by constantly thinking of him, the enemies of the Lord attain the same supreme truth whom sages fixed in yoga worship by controlling their breath, mind, and senses. Similarly, we Shrutis, who generally see you as all-pervading, will achieve the same nectar from your lotus feet that your consorts are able to relish because of their loving attraction to your mighty serpentine arms. for you look upon us and your consorts in the same way. So these are the prayers of the Shrutis, personified Vedas. Let me go back. Yeah, again, the same point of absorption and the enemies who first attains the Rupya Mukti, but then, no, first they attain Sajibja, looks like that they're merging, but then they attain Sarupya, the same form of the Lord. And here, Prabhupada is quoting from Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is actually that he is alluding verse in a Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Rupa Goswami that is being quoted by Krishnadas Kaviraja, how devotee on the path of Raganuga Bhakti, he externally, he executes, he follows all the rules and regulations, but internally means in his mind, he follows one of the associates of Krishna in Vrindavan and always meditates on his devotional service because devotee aspires for that same rasa, for that same mellow. So, for example, if one is attracted by Madhurya rasa, he meditates on a particular gopi or manjari in Vrindavan, on her activities of serving Radha and Krishna. And in this way, he tries to emulate, not imitate, but emulate and follow and perform the same services in the mind. Or somebody else who is aspiring for Sakya Rasa, he follows one of the cowherd boys and always thinks of him and his activities, how that particular cowherd boy is serving Krishna and Balaram, and he, in his mind, aspires also to do the same type of service in same rasa. So you have also this what is it, the Ashtakalya Lila Smarana, means that the pastimes of Radha and Krishna in 8 parts of the day, and in each part of the day Radha Krishna doing different things, and they have different associates around them, rendering them different services. So devotee internally remembers this Ashtakalya Lila, and through this he becomes basically transferred into Goloka Vrindavan by always thinking of the activities of Goloka Vrindavan. So at the moment of that, he is naturally born first in Gokula Vrindavan, where he's trained in these services that he was meditating previously. He's trained by Nityasiddha associates of the Lord, Nityasiddha Gopis and other Nityasiddha Vrajavasis. In their association, he attains the higher levels of prema. And then after that birth, he can go directly to Goloka Vrindavan in the spiritual world. So it's a dual process. One is externally following Angas of Bhakti, like Shravanam Kirtanam, and others, Arjunam. And internally, he remembers eternal associates of the Lord and their service to him, in particular rasa. And then in his mind, he's aspiring to do the same service. Seva Sadaka Rupena, Siddha Rupena Chatrahi. This is the verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Sadaka Rupa, one is rendering Seva in Sadaka Rupa, Seva Sadaka Rupena, and Siddha Rupa in his eternal, in his perfected Siddha Rupa, in perfected form, he is rendering service in the mind. So that means there is this process of Ekadasha Bhava until Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives more on that, more insight on that. He reveals, for example, his form as what was it, Kamala Manjari, with a particular type of complexion, with the age, with the dress, and his service to Radha and Krishna. So basically, sadhaka remembers his siddharupa, his form in the spiritual world that was given to him by Guru, and in his mind, in that form, which is not imaginary, but it's a form that he tries to remember. In his mind, performs service in that particular form. If one is aspiring for Madhura Rasa, obviously he cannot do that service in the male body of sadhaka, so that's why he needs to have this Siddha Rupa. But of course, Srila Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Thakur, seeing many deviations in this Raganuga sadhana bhakti process by Sahajiyas, he de-emphasized that process and told his followers just to chant Harinam, to chant the holy name constantly, and by this chanting, your eternal form will be revealed to you at when the Lord wants that. Before that, if somebody comes, even if the Guru comes and tells you you are so and so in the spiritual world, if your heart is still full of anarthas, you won't be able, to make use of that information, and you may just basically misuse it, start imagining so many things. There was this Rupa Kaviraj in times of Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur who was dressing as a gopi, although he was a man, because he took this advice that even in a sadhaka rupa you have to emulate the residents of Vrindavan. So him and his followers, they were dressing as a gopis and manjaris in order to show that this is what they aspire for, and in order to emulate in their daily activities, the activities of the gopis. And that was certainly deviation, and he was actually excommunicated by the Vaishnava Council at that time. Was it 16th or 17th century? And later many Sahajas also misused the same process of giving this Ekadasha Bhava. So that's why Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Thakur and later Srila Prabhupada, they never really give. I think Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Thakur, he gave maybe a few of his advanced disciples, he gave them this Ekadasha Bhava, and Srila Prabhupada, I think he gave one Babaji initiation to one disciple who was here in Mayapur and who wanted, who was thinking that he's going to leave the body soon, so he just wanted to chant all day and night. So Prabhupada gave him a Babaji initiation, and he named him Audulomi Das Babaji or something like that. And he told him to make a hut a little bit away from the temple. So devotee did that, and he was chanting there for some weeks. Devotees would bring him prasadam. But then after some time, he went to see a doctor, and doctor told him, "Oh no, it was wrong. You still have many years to live." So he abandoned his Babaji Vesh and went back to the West, and I don't know what happened later to him. So after that, Srila Prabhupada didn't give it again to anybody, because he saw that most of his followers were not qualified for that process. And that's why we should all just stick to the holy name of the Lord, and holy name will give all perfection. But we have to chant it purely, and we have to come to the stage of constant chanting. All right. Okay. 41. Okay, Gunas Prabhu would like to read once more.
Yes, Prabhu. Akyartam sarvam yatatte yanmam tvam pariprishtavan damagosha sutadinam hare satmyam api dvisham. Translation: everything you asked about me, about how Sisupala and others attained salvation, although they were inimical, has now been explained to you by me.
Okay, one more.
एषा ब्रह्मण्यदेवस्य कृष्णस्य च महात्मनः अवतारकथा पुण्या वदो यत्रादि दैत्ययो. Translation: in this narration about Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, various expansions or incarnations of the Lord have been described, and the killing of the two demons, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, has also been described. Purport: avatars or incarnations or expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna Govinda. Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayavanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhaktau Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, who is the original person, non-dual, infallible, and without beginning. Although he expands into unlimited forms, he is still the original, and although he is the oldest person, he always appears as a fresh youth. Such eternal, blissful, and all-knowing forms of the Lord cannot be understood by the academic wisdom of the Vedas, but they are always manifest to pure, unalloyed devotees. The Brahma Samhita describes the avatars. Indeed, all the avatars are described in the authentic scriptures. No one can become an avatara or incarnation, although this has become fashionable in the age of Kali. The avatars are described in the authentic scriptures, Shastras, and therefore, before one risks accepting a pretender as an avatara, one should refer to the Shastras. The Shastras say everywhere that Krishna is the original personality of Godhead and that he has innumerable avatars or incarnations. Elsewhere in the Brahma Samhita, it is said, Ramadi Murtishu Kala Niyamena Tishtan. Rama, Narsimha, Varaga, and many others are consecutive expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After Krishna comes Balrama. After Balrama is Sankarshana. Then Aniruddha, Pradyumna, Narayana, and then Purushavasaras, Mahavishnu, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, and Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. All of them are avatars. One must hear about the avatars. Narrations about such avatars are called Avatara Katha, the narrations of Krishna's expansions. Hearing and chanting these narrations is completely pious. Srinvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Sravana Kirtanaha. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.17. One who hears and chants can become punya, purified of material contamination. Whenever there are references to the avatars, religious principles are established and demons who are against Krishna are killed. The Krishna conscious movement is spreading all over the world with two aims: to establish Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and to kill all the pretenders who falsely present themselves as avatars. The preachers of Krishna conscious movement must carry this conviction very carefully within their hearts and kill the demons who in many tactful ways vilify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. If we take shelter of Narsimhadeva and Prahlad Maharaja, it will be easier to kill the demons who are against Krishna and to thus re-establish Krishna's supremacy. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.3.28. Krishna is the Supreme Lord, the original Lord. Prahlad Maharaja is our Guru and Krishna is our worshipable God. As advised by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Guru Krishna Prasadapaye Bhakti Lata Bija, Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 19.151. If we can be successful in getting the mercy of Prahlad Maharaja and also that of Narsimha Deva, then our Krishna consciousness movement will be extremely successful. The demon Hiranyakashipu had so many ways to try to become God himself. But although Prahlad Maharaja was chastised and threatened in many ways, he rigidly refused to accept his powerful demoniac father as God. Following in the footsteps of Prahlad Maharaja, we should reject all the rascals who pretend to be God. We must accept Krishna and his incarnations and no one else. So here it is emphasized that Krishna is a supreme personality of Godhead who is infallible and who is the source of all other incarnations. Also, it is explained that how we have to identify the false pretenders as avatars of the who are posing themselves as avatars of the Lord. That we can only only Krishna and his divine expansions are authentic as per the Shastras, as described in Brahma Samhita and other Shastras. And also here Prabhupada explains the two aims of Krishna conscious movement as is one to establish the Krishna's supremacy, and the second one is to how to challenge this false pretenders who are posing themselves as avatars of their Lord. So we should reject these false gods and avatars by following in the footsteps of Prahlad Maharaja and taking shelter of Narsimhadeva and Prahlada to get strength in fighting against these pretenders.
Yes, and Prabhupada is saying here, kill the demons. How are you going to kill them? Guns or some other weapons?
It is by Shastric evidence we have to defeat them.
Yeah, to expose them,
Yeah.
those pretenders. Although I think in a couple of conversations, Prabhupada mentioned there will be a time when the time will come in the future when we will have to, physically, basically, eliminate those who are against Krishna. Well, yeah, let's see, but it's controversial now if you say it now. You look like a fanatic. I mean, like Mohammedan so-called preachers, fanatics, they're killing people in the name of God, saying, yeah, they are, how they call them, unfaithful, and they just come and, throw a bomb and kill so many. Certainly, this is not what God wants, to kill innocent in the name of religion. So yeah, we have to kill the demonic mentality. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what is he doing? If we see in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, we don't see that he killed anybody physically. Although he wanted at one point to kill Madai by launching Sudarshan Chakra when Madai hurt Nityananda, but then he didn't do that. And he defeated Mayavadis on various occasions, Buddhists and other agnostics. So in this way, he killed their demonic mentality. So this is what is what is applicable in the present day society. Well, of course, we are still quite far from defeating all ungodly elements in the society. We are still very, very small. Maybe in India, we're a little bigger, but otherwise, in a global world, even amongst other religions, we are still very, very small number comparing to the number of people living on this earth, which is almost 8 billion or something. So how many are of them are devotees, Vaishnavas, or at least friends of the devotees, are favorable. You can say, some millions, but, far from hundreds of millions or billion. So still a lot of work needs to be done. All right, Shantirupa Mataji, you'd like to read once more?
Yes, Prabhu. प्रहलादस्यानुचरितं महाभागवतस्य च भक्तिर्ज्ञानं विरक्तिश्च याथार्थ्यं चास्य वै हरे सर्गस्थितिऽप्यस्येष्यस्य अप्ययेषस्य गुणकर्मानुवर्णनं परावरेषां स्थानानां कालेन व्यत्ययो महान्. Translation. This narration describes the characteristics of the great and exalted devotee Prahlad Maharaj, his staunch devotional service, his perfect knowledge, and his perfect detachment from material contamination. It also describes the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the cause of creation, maintenance, and annihilation. Prahlad Maharaj, in his prayers, has described the transcendental qualities of the Lord and has also described how the various abodes of the demigods and demons, regardless of how materially opulent, are destroyed by the mere direction of the Lord. Purport. Srimad Bhagavatam is filled with descriptions of the characteristics of various devotees with reference to the service of the Lord. This Vedic literature is called Bhagavatam because it deals with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotee. By studying Srimad Bhagavatam under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master, one can perfectly understand the science of Krishna, the nature of the material and spiritual worlds, and the aim of life. Srimad Bhagavatam, Amalam Puranam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless Vedic literature as we have discussed in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, simply by understanding Srimad Bhagavatam, one can understand the science of the activities of the Lord, of the devotees, and the activities of the demons, the permanent abode and the temporary abode. Through Srimad Bhagavatam, everything is perfectly known. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, these verses are connected with the words, the story has been described in verse 41 and concludes in the next verse. Hare Yathartyam means the Swarupa of the Lord, without going beyond it. Thus, suffix ya indicates for that subject. Creation, maintenance, and destruction have also been described. The great destruction, Vatyata, of the various places of the higher and lower creatures has also been described. So, this is the summary of the whole chapter. This narration describes the characteristics of the great devotee Prahlad Maharaj, who is a Mahajan, one of the Mahajan. His staunch devotional service, his perfect knowledge, his perfect detachment from material contamination. It also describes the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the cause of creation, maintenance, and annihilation. So, Prahlad Maharaj, in his prayers, has described the transcendental qualities of the Lord and also the abodes of the Supreme Personality of God. So, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is saying the same thing, that we should study the importance of studying Bhagavatam, that we should study under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master and try to understand the science of Krishna. So, because it is the Amala Puranam, which means the perfect or spotless Puran, And by understanding Srimad Bhagavatam, one can understand the science of the activities of the devotees, the activities of demons, and the permanent abode and temporary abode. So it is the perfection of life in all, just to study Srimad Bhagavatam and perfect our lives.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, it's conclusion of the story of Prahlad Maharaj. So it's a very old history that is described in the Bhagavatam. And also this history is also described in some other Puranas like Nrsimha Purana. And it is not something that, happened, a few hundred years ago or 1,000 years ago, as the modern day scholars, some of the modern day scholars, they date Bhagavatam to maybe, 1,000 or maximum 2,000 years old. No, this pastime of Lord Nrsimhadev and killing Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad Maharaj, it happened in, I remember, in Satya Yoga, which was some millions of years ago. Millions of years ago. So Bhagavatam also has to be, millions of years old, or at least, 5,000 years old in written form, when it was recorded by Srila Vyasadeva. But we have to understand Bhagavatam even existed even before. Like Bhagavad Gita was, conveyed to Sangad Vivaswan, and later it was lost. The civilization was lost, and then Krishna spoke it again. So similarly, all these shastras, they eternal, and sometimes they're manifested, sometimes they're unmanifested, but they eternally exist. As the Lord's pastimes are eternal, similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam is eternal. It's not a material scripture, as mundane scholars try to date it. And they're just licking, as this Prabhupada gives analogy, they're just licking the jar of honey from outside. They cannot taste the sweetness of Bhagavatam because their vision of Bhagavatam is completely material. Okay, let's read a little more. 45. Dharmo Bhagavatana cha Bhagavani nagamyate Akhyanyasmin samamnatam Adhyatmikam asheshatam. The principles of religion by which one can actually understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are called Bhagavad Dharma. In this narration, therefore, which deals with these principles, actual transcendence is properly described. To report to the principles of religion, one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Brahman, the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord, and Paramatma, the localized aspect of the Lord. When one is well conversant with all these principles, he becomes a devotee and performs Bhagavad Dharma. Prahlad Maharaj, the spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession, advised that this Bhagavad Dharma be instructed to students from the very beginning of their education. Komarat charit pragyo dharmam bhagavataniha. To understand the science of Supreme Personality of Godhead is the real purpose of education. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. One must simply hear about and describe Lord Vishnu and his various incarnations. This narration concerning Prahlad Maharaj and Lord Nrsimhadev therefore has properly described spiritual transcendental subjects. So this is the Bhagavad Dharma in contrast to Varnashrama Dharma. So Bhagavad Dharma is a direct devotional service to the Lord, starting with Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, and so on. While Varnashrama Dharma is a gradual process where the members of society follow the rules of particular Varna and Ashrama and try to dovetail them in Krishna service. So as long as we are living in a society with others, and as long as we are conditioned, we need to perform some Varnashrama Dharma duties because we live with others and have to abide to some rules. But at one stage, we should be able, to abandon all the shackles of our Varna and Ashrama. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, Sarva Dharman Parityaja. That means, abandon all varieties of religion, abandon all these Varnashrama Dharma duties, and just focus your mind on me. Always think of me. But if one is not able to do that, then he should follow the process of sadhana bhakti, follow the rules and regulations of Vaidhi bhakti. So parallel can be done, one follows some rules of Varnashrama Dharma, only to the extent that is necessary to function in the society. Rules for his particular Varna, occupation, and rules for his ashram. If he's, grihastha, he needs, to work, to earn some money, and perform other family obligations. And in performance of these family duties, he needs to follow Varnashrama Dharma. But parallel with that, he should engage in direct devotional service. Means he has to worship the deity, chant the holy name, hear the Bhagavatam. And gradually, as the time is passing, when he accepts Vanaprastha, he can solely focus on Bhagavad Dharma, only on devotional service, and leaving aside all Varnashrama duties. So Vanaprastha and sannyasis, they basically have no much social obligations, and they are not obliged to follow much of the Varnashrama Dharma duties, although they do follow to show the example, but for themselves they should be engaged in Bhagavad Dharma. And of course, those who completely left the society, like Babajis, Avadutas, they pay zero attention to Varnashrama Dharma and its rules and regulations, and they solely focus only on Bhagavad Dharma and pure devotional service. Okay, that was about Bhagavad Dharma, which is another word for devotional service or bhakti. So 46, ya etat punyam akyanam Vishnur viryo pabrim hitam kirtaye chrdhaya shrutva karma pasher vimuchyate. So karma pasher, from the bondage of karma, will be liberated by listening to this. One who hears and chants this narration about the omnipotence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, is certainly liberating from material bondage without fail. So this narration has a great potency if we hear it with attention. our heart will get purified from all anarthas, from bondage, from this karma pasha, and will be attracted towards the personal form of the Lord. 47. Ittati adi purushasya mrigendra lilam daityendra yutapa vadam prayattapate tham daityamajasya jasatham pravarasya punyam Shrutvanubhavam akuto bhayam eti lokam. Prahlad Maharaj was the best among all the devotees. Anyone who with great attention hears this narration concerning the activities of Prahlad Maharaj, the killing of Hiranyakashipu, and the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Nrsimhadev surely reaches the spiritual world where there is no anxiety. So if we focus our mind only on this Nrsimhadev Lila, we go to Nrsimhadev Loka, Vaikuntha basically. But if we are Krishna Bhaktas, we want to focus our mind on Krishna and Krishna's pastimes. That's why the 10th canto given in the Bhagavad is the biggest canto, and it's the goal. After listening to all the cantos, one reaches 10th canto with the pure heart, and then he can focus his mind on Krishna Lila, on the pastimes of the Krishna, because the Krishna's form is more attractive than any other forms of God, and Krishna's qualities are also more attractive than qualities of his avatars and expansions. So we want to be attracted to Krishna and his pastimes. Of course, we'll hear the Nrsimhadev's Lila, but we should not only exclusively absorb our mind into Nrsimha Lila, because then we will go to Lord Nrsimhadev, Nrsimha Loka. If we want that, that's fine. But if one wants to go to Goloka Vrindavan and take part in Krishna Lila, then the mind has to be absorbed in that Lila. Yuhyam niloki batta bhuri bhaga lokam punana munayo abhyanti yesham grihan avasatiti sakshat ghudam param brahma manushya lingam. Narada Muni continued, my dear Maharaj Yudhishthir, all of you, the Pandavas, are extremely fortunate, for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, lives in your palace just like a human being. Great saintly persons know this very well, and therefore they constantly visit this house. Just imagine that the Lord comes and visit your house. How would we receive him? Purport. After hearing about the activities of Prahlad Maharaj, a pure devotee should be very anxious to follow in his footsteps, but such a devotee might be disappointed, thinking that not even every devotee can come to the standard of Prahlad Maharaj. It is the nature of a pure devotee. He always thinks himself to be the lowest, to be incompetent and unqualified. Thus, after hearing the narration of Prahlad Maharaj's activities, Maharaj Yudhishthir, who was on the same standard of devotional service as Prahlad, might have been thinking of his own humble position. Narada Muni, however, could understand Maharaj Yudhishthir's mind, and therefore he immediately encouraged him by saying that the Pandavas were not less fortunate. They were as good as Prahlad Maharaj, because although Lord Nrsimhadev appeared for Prahlad, the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his original form as Krishna was always living with the Pandavas. Although the Pandavas, because of the influence of Krishna's Yoga Maya, could not think of their fortunate position, every saintly person, including the great sage Narada, could understand it, and therefore they constantly visited Maharaj Yudhishthir. Any pure devotee who is constantly conscious of Krishna is naturally very fortunate. The word Nriloke, meaning within the material world, indicates that before the Pandavas there had been many, many devotees, such as the descendants of the Yadu dynasty and Vasishta, Marichi, Kashyapa, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva, who were all extremely fortunate. The Pandavas, however, were better than all of them because Krishna himself lived with them constantly. Narada Muni therefore specifically mentioned that within this material world, the Pandavas were the most fortunate. Yes, in Bhagavata, Narada Muni, he goes for search of the best devotee, and then he goes first to some king and praises him as the best devotee, and then this king says, no, 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 I'm not the best, because every pure devotee, he thinks himself not the best, so he directs him, go further. There is, how was it? Hanuman, who is a better devotee, and then he goes to Hanuman, and Hanuman says, no, 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 I'm not the best, go to Prahlad, and then Prahlad said, no, 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 I'm not the best, go to Pandavas, Pandavas are better than me. And then Pandavas, of course, they also do not accept that they are the best. They say, no, the Lord is more merciful to Uddhava, go to Uddhava, and like this, Uddhava directs him further to Gopis as the most fortunate. The Vrajvasis were the most fortunate, or the best of the devotees. And then Vishnu Thakur says, oh, Prahlad was fortunate to see the Lord, but we are unfortunate. In this way, Yudhishthira lamented. Narada replied, you are more fortunate than Prahlad, than me, his guru, than other devotees, than previous members of your dynasty like Yadu and Puru. Then the sages like Vasishta, Marichi, and Kashyapa, and then Brahma and Shiva. You are most fortunate among all jivas. The sages who purify the planet by showing themselves come to your house to make themselves successful. Abhyanti. Because secretly taking the human form, the Param Brahman always resides, Avasati, in your houses, without you calling him, because he is attracted to you. He does not personally live in human form in the houses of Prahlad and others, and the sages do not come to see him in order to become successful. Yeah, Lord doesn't live in the house of Prahlad, but he likes to live in the house of Pandavas. Whenever he visits them in Indraprastha, he stays there for quite some time. But because of Prahlad, his grandson Bali Maharaj, he got, Lord Vamanadev in front of his house, guarding his house. So the Lord is, similarly merciful towards all his pure devotees. But of course, there is some gradation of love, and they all recognize that Vrajvasis are the highest devotees, and amongst the Vrajvasis are Gopis are the highest, because their love is so powerful and unlimited that can conquer Krishna. So it's interesting here that previously all these demigods and great sages, they used to frequently visit the earth and the palaces of such saintly kings like Maharaj Yudhishthir, and to attend the different yagyas that were performed by these kings. So even common people, they were able, to see the demigods in those days because of such pious saintly rulers like Maharaj Yudhishthir. Common people could see them could see all all the sages also, and in this way could benefit by hearing some, instructions, translate instructions from the sages, like on battlefield of Kurukshetra during the solar eclipse. All the sages came, and also many common people also came. Millions of common people came, so they got benefited. This is the idea of large gatherings like Kumbh Mela. We we're not going there just for bad. We're supposed to go to such places for meeting the saintly persons. Of course, because it's age of Kali, I don't know how many saintly persons really go there. How many of those who attend are truly saintly. Naga Babas, yeah, for some Naga Babas is saintly, or some other sadhus, but definitely many sadhus this time went there. And ISKCON devotees also went there, but they went for book distribution and prasadam distribution and preaching programs, not just for taking bath. Otherwise, here in Mayapur, we also have this Prayagraj Tirtha at the Panchaveni, there where the Goranga Simha, Goranga Setu Bridge is. One can also get the same benefit as bathing at the Prayag by bathing here in the holy dam of Mayapur. But I heard many devotees going even 2 times, and they're going very long journeys of it's 800 kilometers. Whole day you travel, and then on certain days they needed to walk 9 hours because 60 kilometers was just a traffic jam, and you were moving uh, very slowly. They were moving very slowly, and then at one point they had to abandon the cars and just walk for 9 hours, a whole day, to reach the Ganga, and then walk back to the car again for many kilometers. It was quite some tapasya that they did, but it's okay. It's their choice. Any of you, Shadruba Manaji, Gunari Prabhu, did you go?
No, Prabhu.
I didn't.
I didn't do any adventure.
This, this morning I was in a taxi, and the taxi driver told me he went twice. He went twice but with his car. I mean, for common people, it's definitely auspicious. It's auspicious, constellation, and all the, you can say, auspicious energies gathered there. But he could have also baited here in Ganga, but because there is a big propaganda that's saying it's a once in 144 years Kumbh Mela, which actually may not be the truth because somebody digged up and they found that 2001 Kumbh Mela was also advertised as one in 144 years. And then they digged up back more in the past and they found that every 24 years, every alternate Kumbh Mela, they advertise it as one in 144 years. So they would skip one full Purna Kumbh Mela at 12 years because people will still remember, oh, the last one was 144 years. But after 24 years, everybody either dies or forgets. And then again, they advertise it as a Maha Kumbh Mela 144 years because, it's also a business that is being done by this propaganda and marketing. And in any case, it's suspicious for people who never bet in Ganga. This is good time. And hopefully, yeah, they meet devotees there. They hear the Harinam, Kirtan. They get some books. So it's all auspicious. Just the pasya, I don't know. Is it really word for devotees who are already here next to Ganga? Sometimes it is said that those who are not the most intelligent, that travel thousands of kilometers to bathe in some holy place. But then those who live next to the in the holy place. They never, they never take bath there, and they never take association of the saintly presence who hung to that holy place. Because the main point is not just bathing in the water, the main point is having sadhu sangha, having saintly association. And today's saintly association change your life. Accept the process of bhakti and start applying it in your own life. This is the purpose of the gatherings, to get this saintly association and start practicing devotional service. Otherwise, just dipping. Yeah, you get rid of many things, that's true. But it's still karmakanda, and something pious to do and beneficial, but it's not devotional service. But people in India are definitely happy, definitely fortunate to have Mother Ganga flowing through it. So even ordinary people who are not otherwise very enlightened, they get purified, so their next life will be better. Even if they don't become devotees in this life, they will become in the next. Okay, this is just some thoughts on Kumbh Mela. It's finishing soon, they say, on Shivaratri. It will be the last day of Kumbh Mela. But there are people who live at Radhakund, which is definitely the most sacred place in the universe. And they hardly or never bathe. Their local residents there, they don't even think of bathing in the Radhakund. Because they're so accustomed, for them it's just ordinary kund. So they come and they sell sabji on the banks of Radhakund. But they don't think of taking bath. But then people from other countries, who are devotees who have a proper conception that is given to us by Srila Prabhupada and previous acharyas, they know the value of Radha Kunda. So when you come to the holy place with the proper consciousness, proper conception of the value of that place, then the experience will be different. Then your experience will be more spiritual when you come with a proper vision and proper conception. I see here sometimes when I go with the boat across the Ganga, some people are just, throwing garbage, spitting. They don't know the value of Mother Ganga. For them, it's just another river. And they live next to it and they're used to it, so they disrespect it. But if we as devotees, we are supposed to have a proper vision and conception. And then we will not commit offenses, and then we will get benefit. So the consciousness of one who is taking bath is also important, not just physical act of bathing in a place, but proper vision, proper conception, proper consciousness has to be there to get the full and the real benefit of such holy places. Otherwise, offenses will be also there, and which may diminish the good results that one gains in that holy place. Okay, should we read one more? How big this is? It's already 6:30. I think we should stop. 1.5 hours is more than enough for a session, and then we can continue next Wednesday. I guess we'll see. Yeah, now because the festival is coming, it's all uncertain also for me, and I guess for others, some of others, whether we'll be able to do it or not. But let's see. Next Wednesday we'll try to have it. If not, we'll just postpone it or table it. Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, bro.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Vasindubhyo Chapatitanam.
Namo Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vaishnava.
Vaishnavebhyo namo.